Hello and welcome to Curated Spaces, the podcast on a mission to reignite real-world connection. I'm Molly Cooper, and every episode I share the stories behind incredible people doing brilliant things in the world of travel, design and hospitality. From the founders and owners who have brought spaces to life to chefs, writers, designers and many, many more, join me as I sit down with the teams connecting people and places across the country. I'm also incredibly excited to share that soon you will be able to connect with Britain's best slow living spaces and under the radar finds on the brand new Curated Spaces platform. From weekly giveaways to flash sales and last minute availability, we're making 2024 the year of the staycay. Head to our website to get yourself on that early bird list and you can bag yourself some pretty lovely prizes in our pre-launch giveaway. Now, without further ado, let's get into today's conversation. Curated Spaces is all about celebrating the places that bring us together. And in today's Snapshot episode, we're looking at how events can also connect people in unique experiences that nourish the body, mind and soul. And I'm delighted to introduce Alexi and Charlotte from NUMA, who are going to talk me through designing retreats that allow you to reconnect with yourself, discover more of what you want and cultivate how to get it. Alexi, Charlotte, welcome to the podcast. It's such a pleasure to be chatting with you today. How are you both doing?
We're good. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks. Great to be here.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. And I'm really excited to chat about everything we're going to go into now because it feels like very apt timing. January has flown by. 2024 is off to a start. And I think we're going to touch on some really big themes that we can all take some important lessons from for this year ahead. So before we get into all of that, I'd love to hear a bit about you guys and your backgrounds and how you sort of brought NUMA to life.
A little background on NUMA. So NUMA was a seed that was planted, I want to say 3 years ago, and sort of came from a combination of Alexi and I's interests and passions and what we do with work and just wanting to put it all together and create really beautiful immersive experiences for people. We've both been on several retreats in the past, individually and together, and really reap the benefits of going on really immersive experiences is the key word in this, in that it's, a couple days or even a week, and off your phone and just really, really present and in the moment and soaking everything in. And the transformation that happens in that space is really remarkable. And we've both felt it individually. So it was a sort of idea from that, as well as just both of us loving to bring people together. We really love bringing people from all different walks of life, people from different circles in our friend groups together, united by some common ground, and just sort of watch the camaraderie unfold. So it was I guess a bit of a combination of all of those factors that led to us really starting it.
Yeah, and 3 years ago, was this a COVID baby or had the wheels been set in motion before that?
I think it might have been the courage born out of there. We definitely spoke a lot about it. I think particularly, obviously, with the separation away from people, being away from loved ones, not being able to host is kind of what Shah touched upon, which is so true. We've always been told that we're good at bringing people together, and some of our best friends turn into best friends with other best friends, and that's just, there is no better feeling than that, and just creating a space for people to be themselves. But yeah, a little bit of a COVID baby, and the final kick I remember was my coach, who I've worked with for a while. He just asked me, and we went into sort of a deep thought process and went through these things, and ultimately what would be a scary thing to do this year that would change my life and but is ultimately what I want to do most, was pretty much the question that he asked. And I sat there and I couldn't get away from the fact that I'd been thinking about running, or I guess hosting a retreat or an immersive experience of some kind for probably 6 or 7 years since I first did one. It had the biggest people throw this word around, but it transformed my mind in a way, and my life in a way that I never could have imagined. And that was from a silent retreat in Thailand with Buddhist monks. So, but I knew then and there that I needed to bring something to the UK that was a little bit more, what would you call it, accessible, and a little bit more westernized. So that's kind of where it was born, and then where that ultimate push that I needed came from.
I'm seeing a lot of parallels with Unplugged there. These bloody 2-week silent retreats. I need to check in on one. Who knows what brainwave I might have.
Yeah, silence really is, it's an amazing thing. It can be very scary, I think, to a lot of people, and it was to me. I didn't know what that meant, but ultimately we'll come on to it. It's a little bit like our retreats. I think once you go past a slight bit of discomfort, it's amazing what you can find on the other side. And that's what I found with silence. It doesn't work for everyone. It's not for everyone. But I think Charlotte and I would both agree it's probably where we've come up with our greatest ideas, and I think gained the courage to just do the things that we really ultimately want to do. And that is what NUMA is all about as well.
Oh, I love that. And before we go into NUMA and your sort of pillars within that, maybe we should take a step back and look at retreats in general. Because I know when you say retreats, you have the images of, like, I don't know, people wearing white and drinking like celery juice and like all those kind of cliches. What do you guys think retreats is in this like modern age, in this post-COVID world where people are connecting differently and looking for different things in life? Everyone's quitting their jobs and trying to find meaning. And how do retreats fit into that? I'd love to hear a bit about your experiences and what you've seen.
Yeah, I think retreating is slightly different for everybody. It is, it's essentially how I see it is it's giving yourself the space, just truly giving yourself the space, taking a step back from the day-to-day, from the routines and the habits and the occasional autopilot modes that we can all be on. And it's really having the space, giving yourself that space to just drop all the expectations, drop all the needs and shoulds and coulds, and just kind of sit there and be with where you are, like where you currently are in that moment, and see what comes up from that. And I think retreating, especially in this day and age, for us, a huge piece is that digital detox, that unplugging piece, which we can sometimes overlook. I feel even when we talk about it and you sort of say digital detox and people kind of roll their eyes and they're like, yeah, I know what that's like. But it's like, have you really, really done it? Have you really tried it and really given it a go? And not just for half a day but really out of sight, out of mind, because that physical separation is what makes the biggest difference. And seeing what comes up when you are unplugged, when it's not always there, buzzing, notifying, stimulating. The constant stimulus is something that I think if you live a modern sort of life, and by that I mean you live in a city, you commute, you go out to busy places. If you live that sort of life, you are just, your stimulation and your senses are more heightened constantly almost, and they never really get a break. So the retreat for me is space away from that, and can be quite telling what comes up in that space.
That's so cool.
Yeah. To I guess just to add to that, because I think, I mean, I can't put it really much better, but in terms of what I think people think retreats are about and what they have been about, maybe let's say in the past, and you've mentioned Unplugged, and I could definitely relate to what Hector has talked about. And I think how he summarizes how it's really changed. I think retreats has often had this connotation to get away, to sort of retreat away from normal life. And whilst you are doing that, what I think now retreats are to do is to retreat away in order to come back better, in order to come back with more energy, more ideas, more creativity, more of yourself, and come back stronger and come back with anything. Again, we've had we've had people come from our retreats after, and they've come back with more courage to do what they ultimately want to do. Or maybe they've just come back with a little bit more energy. Maybe they came back tired, but they realized that actually they needed to feel tired because they needed to really know how they were overwhelming themselves. So I really feel that, you mentioned it, there's all types of retreats there, and we're trying to ground retreats, and that's why we call them immersive experiences. That's all they are. People identify with a retreat, but an immersive experience is really what it is, to really feel what it's like to be human in a non-woo-woo way, just to connect with people. It's like the thing that I think people could probably relate to is, when you've gone camping, when you were younger, and you're like, why is this so fun? Why is just sitting around a fire fun? And why does putting up my tent, maybe putting up your tent is not, but actually putting it up and then looking at it and going, I did that. It's something that is hard to describe, but we all feel it. And that's why we say immersive experiences, because it's less about talking about what it was like or what it is like, which we do all the time in this day and age. We talk about every single experience, and it's important. However, it's more about how you feel. And that's what we really want to bring back to these types of things and these types of experiences and retreats.
Oh, I love you both phrase that so well. I feel like everyone is just so busy. I don't know about you, but this January has just disappeared. I don't even know where the time's gone. And it's so hard to take that time out. And it's when you need to that you just struggle to, because you're like, I actually just can't stop. I've got to keep going. And you lose your routines. You don't go out for that walk. You lose that connection with nature, with the bigger stuff. I actually got pickpocketed a couple of weeks ago. And apart from it being really annoying, it was brilliant because I had a digital detox. I had this old phone, the SIM card didn't work. Oh my God, it was
That was us. That was
the only
us,
slight
Molly.
issue was I got lost quite a lot. But apart from that, I remember thinking, like, this is so nice. Like, I started taking my Kindle on the tube, and I just wasn't even bothering trying to connect to the Wi-Fi at each station. It really was like a lovely thing. And I was just uncontactable.
I love that.
And then I'd get back to a really busy WhatsApp and be like, sorry, guys, I was actually offline. But now I've got a phone again. I've sunk straight back into my old habits. So maybe a little retreat. So I need to sort of reset that and tap back into that mindset.
Maybe we're in the wrong business. Maybe we need to just pickpocket people, Shah, and then they'll be able to see, how nice it is. But I love that as an example. It's so brilliant. It's kind of exactly what people say that they experience when they come. They're like, at first I was a bit like, oh, what am I going to do without it, etc. And then it passes, and then they're like, I don't need it back anymore. I'm great.
You just kind of surrender, and you're like, this is the new me. And then
Absolutely.
you get on your phone and you lose it. But let's go into NUMA then, because I'm dying to hear. You've got these 3 amazing pillars, and I'd love to hear about how you sort of had this idea. You spoke about it a lot in lockdown. Obviously, we're all dealing with a lot of stuff then. But then you actually did something really proactive with that and made this incredible experience that's helped so many people. So tell me about that early stage and the idea, and bring that into, I guess, a concept and then reality.
Sure. So the early stage, as I said, I guess we sort of pulled from our experiences, but of what we got the most out of. So we sort of took a bit of an overview of all of the retreats and really transformational experiences we had, and we said, okay, which ones resonated the most? Which ones do we feel made the most impact? And that's sort of how we pieced together what we wanted to create. And we wanted to make it accessible, and that is a really key word, is making it not sort of having it at a really high level where it's intimidating or it's off-putting to people that have maybe never done some of these practices, but also having it at a level that if you have done some of them, you will still get a lot out of it. So we kind of came to terms with this idea of sampling practices. And so the idea is really to give people, think of it as a buffet of wellness practices, and you get to try a little bit of each one, but you get to really, really try it. You get to try it in the right set and setting, guided by a professional, fully immersed, phones away, buzzing away, and really give it a chance to work and really give it a chance to have an effect on you. And some will have a stronger effect than others. Some you will just personally and subjectively resonate with more. So it's giving people a bit of a concentrated sample of practices to see what works, to see what jives, and what works for one works, maybe less effectively for someone else. And that's sort of the idea. And it's a lot of these buzzwords and these wellness terms that we hear, and they're thrown around a lot. And it's kind of just breaking down all of that buzzy buzzword around it and just sort of saying, here, try this, and see what works, and see what you actually think you could take with you back into your life. That's another sort of key point. So we wanted to make sure that with the practitioners, they're instructing it in a more introductory sort of way, and giving some definition and some language and some understanding and education around the practice and why, and the benefits of why. And then with that, each individual can kind of take from it what they need, and see what they want to carry on using in their day-to-day life.
Yeah. To echo that, just really practical ways that you can use these things in your life, because, and to what Charlotte said as well, I think we had seen with ourselves and with friends that you try like a practice, or usually you do go on a retreat, it's only yoga and some, vegetarian food, which again, great. But for the majority of people, that is quite limiting. And if I've seen people try a breathwork session and think that that is what wellness is. And if they didn't have a good experience because of that one particular practitioner, or they just weren't in the right mood, lots of people have tried meditation and gone, wellness is not for me. And so we tried to find, as Charlotte said, really accessible practices, but also an array. And I love that, Charlotte. You haven't mentioned it like that before, but a buffet. Because not everyone likes Chinese food. Not everyone likes, Indian food, etc. So to try all of it, and then to really take the seriousness out of what wellness has become. And that is such a key part. The line that we have is, we take wellness seriously, but not ourselves too seriously. Because I think a lot of people really have just kind of, they get a little almost disheartened when something doesn't work for them. So this is like, look, not everyone loves the same sport, right? Some people like football, some people like cricket, some people like music. So why can't wellness be very similar to that? And so to try all of them in one setting is awesome. And I think to tie all of that up, we're really trying to understand what's the point. What's the point in getting people here? The overall point, because yes, they might take away some amazing tools and skills that they can use in different parts of their lives. But ultimately, the space that we've created and the three pillars that you mentioned, when we really it took a while for these to develop out, but ultimately it's to reconnect with yourself, in order to discover more of what you want and cultivate how to get it. And in human terms, because that might sound a little bit wishy-washy again, it's really just discovering more about yourself and what you like, and ultimately how you're going to put more of that in your life. And we've had people come and, for examples, realize that they really want to go and live and work in a different country. And they've just been neglecting that thought that they've had for a while. So they found the courage to do that. Others have come, and through our nostalgic games, which is something I'll let Charlotte describe in more detail after this, but it's really where a lot of fun comes out, childhood games that we do. They've realized that they've lost that fun competitiveness in themselves, and that energy. They hadn't run at the rate that they ran in a long time, and they realized and found a completely different part of themselves, and the laughter and joy in that, as well as many other things. Some people discovered a business that they wanted to start, and others thought about a creative project in a completely different way. And so really, to sum it all up, I think a lot of wellness says this is what you need, and here, just do this. We're like, you might need some of this, try it. Maybe you won't need any, but at least you'll have then tried it, and at least you'll have learned something. You'll have learned that you don't like this and you do like that, and something will come from it. Really, again, not shoving it down people's throats, which often it can feel like in that way. But yeah, I think it kind of opens up the nostalgic games, because that is a huge pillar, or at least big part, that is very different to what other retreats, I think, do.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear about nostalgic games. I mean, you had me at buffet, to be honest. And I think this is such a lovely, like, fresh take on wellness. And I think for years, wellness got hijacked. It was getting up and buying a, £10 green juice, and then spending 50 quid on a Pilates class. And it was very skin deep. It didn't go much beyond that. Whereas I think now, maybe with COVID, and so many people are like, actually, this job, this industry, this space in life that I've ended up in somewhere, it's not where I wanted to be, and actually it's not aligning with a lot of my values, my interests, and what I want to be doing, or the life I want to be building. And actually, no matter how many green juices you chug, if you're feeling a bit unsettled, unhappy, unfulfilled, like, you're never going to feel great. So I love that you guys are taking this wellness to a much deeper level, but in a really accessible, open, fun way. And it's not like big, scary, what do you value in life? It's like, let's play some nostalgic games. So tell me about them.
So the nostalgic games are essentially, well, it's sort of in the name, nostalgic games, nostalgic childhood games. So those classic childhood games that we all played in gym class or with our friends, and they're not super comprehensive. They're quite straightforward. Usually there's just one main task that you're doing in each of the games. The idea for incorporating the games into NUMA was really to get people tapped into that childlike spirit, and just tapped into that wonder and curiosity and expression and complete presence that children have. And that we, somehow along the way to adulthood, we do lose touch with that. And we get really, really concerned about external opinion and validation, and what are people going to think, and what are people going to say, and is this too childish? Is this too childish? Is this too crazy? And so it's sort of just stripping all of that back and giving people a chance to really tap into it. No judgment, everyone is sort of on the same playing field in these games, and just really experience that and see how it feels. And it's quite liberating. It's all of the feedback that we got from our guests and from us experiencing it ourselves, because we weren't sure how this was going to go down. We sort of said, listen, this is really aligned with us, and this is something that we feel could really, really resonate with other people. But it was a bit of a shot in the dark, and it was probably one of the best moments of the retreat in terms of pure, raw, genuine joy and laughter. And it was a lot of deep belly laughs and just complete, letting go and total presence. And it's those moments really show you that, we can tap into that in our day-to-day busy, serious adult lives. We just have to be willing to and be able to.
Yeah, I think that's
Beautifully put.
It's amazingly put. And also I love that going on a retreat, maybe a bit scary, like putting yourself out there, being vulnerable, but actually getting people to open up by going back to a place of comfort, like back to these games and this innocence, and like you say, this curiosity and wonder that we all sort of lose along the way. I think that's a lovely way to sort of set the tone.
Yeah, and Charlotte teased, I think, a lot of people listening by not mentioning any of the games, because even I wanted you to mention some of the games, because what are these games? I was even like, please tell them the games. Tug of war is one of them, which was brilliant, because we were like, okay, well, how do we want to split up? And you just saw the girls and the boys just split into groups and go and look at the boys. There are few more of them, I might say, and they sort of went, yeah, we can take them, and they did, and they fully took the boys in a tug of war, which was just you'd never seen people try so hard at something. and create so much camaraderie in about 5 minutes and disappointment from the guys. But again, so much fun. But potato sack races, jumping for your life and watching people do it in different techniques was just hilarious. It really was just so much laughter. And what other games did we have, Charlotte?
We had Giant Jenga, which was a bit more subdued, skillful. We had the sack throwing, which is also known as cornhole.
Yeah.
I think that might be a Canadian American way of saying it, but with the little beanbag toss, maybe is how it's said here.
Yeah, beanbag is much more British for us. But yeah, as Charlotte said, it really is this simplicity. And I must admit, I was very skeptical. I know Charlotte loves games, but I'm not a games person. Like, I like sport. I like, football and tennis and paddle tennis and things that are quite, but childlike games can be quite scary. And especially to, I think, guys and blokes, like, what is that? That's a bit childish, whatever. Why would I need to? But it was so much fun. And I was completely blown away. It wasn't the thing that I thought was going to be huge, but it was. And every single person, as Charlotte said. But that simplicity of not having anything to necessarily gain from playing a game. It's the same as playing board games. You play for fun. You don't necessarily, okay, you can play obviously to try and win, but it's about the time that you're playing. It's not about getting to the end. You get disappointed when it's finished. And I think there's a great lesson in that. And those are the most fun things to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, try telling that to my mum. She's quite competitive when it comes to
I was just going to say, I play board games to win.
Yes, well, there's a reason why the girls won the tug of war. Let's just put it that way. There was no letting go.
Oh, but it's so true. And you think of all those work socials, and actually the ones that were the most fun is when you take a rounders bat to the nearest park and you just settle in and everyone gets so into it, but in the most carefree, happy, committed way. And it's just lovely. So for people listening and they're like, oh, this is resonating, I want to feel grounded, I want to reconnect, I want to approach 2024 with this sort of wellness on a deeper level, do you have any good places for them to start, or maybe hands-on advice for them to start reconnecting and sort of rethinking about where they are and what they want from life?
So I would just say simply, there's probably something that's been on your mind to do. We had one particular guest who had been thinking about pottery for a long time and doing that. And she ended up going and doing a pottery course, and she's still doing that pottery course. And she was telling me all about the things that she'd made through it and telling me how difficult handles were, etc. But I would say there's probably something that is on your mind that you have thought about doing for a long time. And I would say, write it down, go and journal about it, write why you want to do that, and then what's stopping you, and just do it. Just sign up to that one little thing that you need to do. Usually it's because you're like, I don't know where to find the class, or I don't know where I would go and live in that particular country. Go and just take a weekend trip there. Go and do something small. This could be, and again, not everyone can go, and take a weekend trip somewhere, but whatever it is, your mind will be telling you that it's not possible. So find the thing that is possible, that first step. And that would be my advice.
I love that. Dip your toe before you dive in.
Exactly. Because you might not even like it. And that's the whole point. Because then it's not on your mind forever thinking, oh, I would have been a pottery champion, for example.
That was me 2 years ago, and then I did a pottery course. I didn't even get past pinch pots.
There you go. Exactly.
How about you, Charlotte?
Yeah, I think it's along a similar line, but it's taking that leap of faith and trusting in the process, as sort of cliche as that sounds. And it's taking the routes and having the speed bumps and the roadblocks. That's all part of it. And I think it's just having the belief that there is something to gain out of every experience, and there's always a little gift in there if you can see it. Sometimes it might not be obvious. Sometimes it might only be in the aftermath that it manifests or that it presents itself. But there's always a little nugget in there of wisdom, of learning. So it's never a waste of time.
I love that. And I know that it's so popular now to like, failure is not a failure, it's great, we learn from it. But you're so right, it can be so hard to see it as that in the moment. But just to remember, it might not be immediate, but something good will come of this if you just keep looking for it. I love that. What a lovely note to end on. It's been so fun chatting. I do, of course, have a quick fire round to wrap up if you're ready for it.
Ooh,
Let's do
I'm
it.
excited.
yes.
Okay. So what's one moment in your life which has really made you just stop and has like played a big role or made you maybe go down a different path? That's probably not very quick fire actually, but
No, I'll go first. The thing that popped up in my head is what I talked about, which was when I first went on a silent meditation retreat. But what people don't know from what I said is I was on my way to Thailand to source some leather goods because I had a clothing and accessories brand back then that I was building this business. And something told me that I was not here to do that. And I wasn't very happy. Didn't really think that the business was really what I wanted to be doing. So I just decided to stop any of the business side of things. I went and did Muay Thai kickboxing for 2 days, which I loved. I trained with a world champion for $15 an hour, and then went and sourced a silent retreat for 3 days. And so it's kind of on that, if you're having this feeling and it doesn't make sense, which it did not make sense at the time, then that was a moment for me to go, like Charlotte said, sometimes you just got to take that leap and you'll learn something from it. And I did. And so here I am now.
look at you now. How about you, Charlotte?
I would have to say moving to London from Canada, for me, that was a really big life-changing moment. I was 20 years old at the time, and there were a lot of pieces of the puzzle that didn't make sense. As I said, there was a lot of uncertainty, there was a lot of fear in the decision, but that was a moment where when I made it happen, and when I say made it happen, it was going through, with university and sort of doing an exchange and then getting a little taste for it. So dipping my toe in and then realizing, okay, this is, I like this. I want to make this, more of my reality. And so then that manifested in, once I graduated, actually making the move over. And once I had made the move over, I remember I had this moment sitting in my flat where I was just like, I did it. I'm here and I did it. And I have no idea what's going to unfold and I have no idea what's in store, but it was sort of that was a pivotal moment in my life where I really realized I'm in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
That was the sort of clincher.
You built it. You got here. Yeah, two very strong answers. Okay, next one. Do you have a space that you retreat to again to recharge, to reconnect with yourself?
Yeah, my mum and dad's. Sorry, I say my mum's because she's normally the one that's there a lot more. My parents in the countryside. I grew up pretty much there, and it is just, again, being in nature. It was one of the reasons we started NUMA, which was realizing that not everyone has a place in the countryside that they can go to and they can feel the benefits of just being surrounded by nature. So that's my one.
Love that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, since I've moved over here, that's my one as well. So, but very, very grateful and lucky to have that. And that is somewhere where we sort of make it our own little retreat, whether we go out for the weekend, we'll turn our phones on airplane mode or just leave them up in the room for the day and go on long walks with the dogs and just really bask in nature and enjoy the more sort of quiet, less hustle bustle streets and buses and loudness that comes with city living. So yeah, that's our little sanctuary.
Nothing like a bit of time in the country to make you feel better. Yeah. And then do you have any good book or content recommendations for people who are starting their sort of retreat, wellness, what I want to do with my life journey?
I have a feeling we might have the same one.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
another synergy.
I would say only because it's top of mind, and I just reread it, and really read it to understand this time around. I think the first time I sort of read through it, and this time I really took my pen out and underlined and asterisks and bold and everything. But it would be The Untethered Soul by
This has
Michael
been on my
Singer.
list. Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's a small, it's not too big. It's introductory. It doesn't use super complex jargon. I think it's quite easy to digest and understand, but it is something to be, as I said, the first time I sort of zipped through it, and then I really read it, and I really read and digested each word, and it is quite a powerful message that it delivers. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the same, because hopefully that'll mean that people won't think that there's too many choices listening to this. So I agree. The Untethered Soul was one of the most powerful books for me. If it doesn't hit you right then and there, then come back to it, as Charlotte's saying. But it was it helped me make a lot more sense of the world, my mind, and life in general. So definitely recommend.
Okay, I'm going to bump that to the top of my reading list. I'll pop you a note when I'm finished. We can discuss. And then finally, what's one thing that you'd really love to achieve or are striving towards in 2024? Could be a thing, could be a feeling, could be anything you like.
Sort of on par with the message that The Untethered Soul delivers, but for me, the feeling is lightness. So a feeling of, and it has two definitions, sort of the dark and the light, but the heavy and the light. So you can take it in both respects, but for me initially it was really the lightness in the feeling, in just not taking it all too seriously, not sweating the small stuff, just living and feeling lighter in what we carry in our day to day. And I think there's so many things and thoughts and feelings that go on in our heads on these sort of open loop, never ending broken records, and just sort of really like sitting behind that, which is a practice. And it is not an overnight. It really is. It's a daily work. But I'm committed to putting in that practice and really just allowing all of that. It's the voice in the mind, and just sitting behind it, noticing it, observing it. And it just makes you feel lighter. I feel things very somatically and very viscerally. So to me, the lightness is, I feel it in my body.
I love that. Eat your heart out, green juice. Yeah. How about you, Alexi?
Mine would be joy. I was a very serious person for a long time during my life, and I always thought I was like that. I always thought, I'm serious because I need to be, and because the world is serious, and blah blah blah. And what I've come to realize over the years is that joy is something that is worth striving towards. Happiness can be quite dangerous, because I think it's something that you shouldn't be happy all the time. I think I'd start worrying if I was really super happy all the time. But joy is something that I can really observe, and I can really like almost bottle up. When I feel joy, I can really feel it, and I don't get any repercussions after, if that makes sense. And what I've found brings me a lot of joy is when, and this is another word I guess I'm striving towards, but is flow. And flow is a form of kind of concentration, where you're doing something that is slightly challenging, but so it allows you to concentrate on that particular thing and forget the world around you. And when I'm in flow, a state of flow, I can feel all these incredible emotions that I think we're meant to feel, like joy, more. And it kind of comes back to again, creating more space in my life for NUMA, because these retreats are for ourselves. They're for us. That's the selfishness in it. We had just as fun as everyone else on them. And so to bring more of that into our lives will bring more flow, more joy for me. And so that's what I'm striving towards.
Oh, what a glorious note to end on. I feel like that's giving me that little lift I needed to go and face my inbox. Thank you so much.
Oh,
for
you just
talking with
reminded me of mine. Great.
Sorry, I can't look at me ruining the vibes, but it's been such a pleasure to chat. Thank you so much, both of you. And I can't wait to see you on the next NUMA retreat. Count me in.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much,
It's been a
Molly.
pleasure.
Wow, something a little bit different there, but one that I absolutely loved. Thank you so much, Charlotte and Alexi. What a fantastic conversation. I can't wait to go and dive into all those book recommendations and start approaching my life a little bit differently, it feels like. And as ever, thank you so much to everyone who tuned into this conversation. All your reviews, your ratings, your kind words, your messages on Instagram. I love it. I'm here for it. Keep them coming. And I'm also incredibly excited to announce that the brand new Curated Spaces platform is launching this coming Tuesday. So keep an eye on your inbox. We'll be dropping more details very soon on how to set up your account and come join our community of curious travellers and slow living spaces. This podcast is of course still ongoing, so I will catch you next time for more Curated Spaces.